Yo, homies, what's happening, man? Listen, as always, I hope that you guys are having a dope day. Now, one thing I want to tell you guys is that I've had a lot of worries in my life, most of which has never happened. Now, all I want to say is that most of the time, your worst enemy is definitely yourself. It's your mind, it's how you perceive things. Sometimes you got to learn to live life a little and not stress out. Sometimes the mind will definitely take you places you don't even need to go. So, try to relax, don't put too much pressure on yourself, and try to make the day the best that you can. You feel me? Now it's finally time for me to review Nezha in high level play. Now you guys know what this means. It's time to sit back in our bean bags, get our hot cocoa in a wine glass, and relax in our cargo shorts with no pockets and tend to just enjoy this. Now the thing about this is I've roasted Nezha more than any other frame in Warframe. I'm not gonna lie, those were some good times for me. When I had nothing else to say in my videos, I just drop a Nezha insult, and I'm gonna miss those days. Can we take a moment? All right, moment over. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into this. Now, Nezha's first ability, which is Firewalker, is a completely good ability, especially for a first ability, but I don't agree with the animation. As you guys can see right here, Nezha jumps 6 feet in the air and just overly dramaticized. New word of the day. Can we actually get a definition with somebody using that in a sentence in the comment section, please? Now, the reason why I like Volt Speed is because Volt activates it and then he just goes. Nezha has to start tap dancing, doing all this extra stuff like the frog off Kids WB, to where he's like, hello my baby, hello my honey, hello my husband. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are we doing all that? All right. Now, the cool thing about this ability is that it's always on, it's duration based. The best thing that they could have done was take it from a channeling ability, because you have so much more things that you can do with this now, and you can keep up your energy. It has so much more synergy with Nezha. Now, what's going to happen is like, let's say you have Firewalker on with a melee weapon that's using Condition Overload, plus you're proccing the fire added to the Condition Overload's damage. You do Ridiculante type of damage, people. You out here hitting like a grown man with socks on his fist, okay? I'm just saying the damage is nice. The flexibility isn't always good, but it's really great in this situation, okay? Now, you get the speed, you get the CC if you set it up correctly. You got to spell your name out so the enemies can't go by. You remember when you was a kid and you draw the line, say, if you come past this line, I'm going to punch you in the face. You better not cross that line. That's kind of like what Nezha is with the first ability. First ability, I definitely agree with. Full-fledged, really great, really nice, and it's great for speed missions and all of that. I love it, okay? Now, the second ability, which is going to be Blazing Chakram. Blazing Chakram is it's really good. I actually use it more than I thought that I ever would. The reason for this is going to be the damage boost that you actually get from using this ability when you synergize it with your fourth ability, which is going to be Divine Spears. The really cool thing is that damage boost is just my favorite thing in the game. Any frame that can buff their damage makes their potential to go further in solo or long level runs that much greater. My biggest issue with the ability is going to be the fact that it has no indicator of how much damage you're actually getting on the screen. Like, Pablo, come on now, I put my faith in you, and you're all about having indicators on the screen, but where's the indicator for how much extra damage I'm actually doing and when that damage is up? The problem for me with Blazing Chakram is then going to be the fact that when you have Divine Spears out and you hit them with Blazing Chakram doesn't really show the hula hoop that's around the enemies to show that the damage buff is there. You just have to know. It's kind of hard to let your friends know as well, because it's a little bit hard to see. So I really need an indicator on the screen. The damage buff from all sources, so your slash procs, every single one of that stuff is going to be there. So it is very fantastic. I actually really like that. That's my favorite thing. When I'm in really high level play with Nezha, I tend to use that because I need the damage boost to make my weapons get that extra so I can do that damage. You know what I mean? So overall, I feel like the ability just needs an indicator on the screen to let you know how much damage you're going to be doing. Now, one thing I do want to say is that Nezha's very extra. He's really extra. Like, you really don't have to do all that. The thing that I mean is Nezha has a lot of like synergy and extra buttons that's not really needed. Now, Nezha also has a lot of white number calculations, which a white number calculation is just the base flat number like, hey, it's going to do this much impale damage. The impale damage means nothing. Those extra white numbers mean nothing. You just want to know what are the benefits and the perks that the ability is then going to give you, because it then confuses a lot of players. Holding the Blazing Chakram to charge it, to throw it, unnecessary because it's not really needed at a time. The other thing for me is that I feel like Blazing Chakram should not need to, I would say, depend on Divine Spears, because that takes a lot of energy. So you have to depend on two abilities just to get a simple group buff, when so many other frames in the game just press one buttons. I'm all here for synergy, but this is just a little bit more leaning towards tediousness to not give you that greater outcome, okay? Now, if they would change it to where the lock-on sequence to where Blazing Chakram wasn't just complete doo-doo, because Blazing Chakram on its own, when you hit one enemy, you get the damage buff. You don't need Divine Spears, you get the damage buff. The problem is it has a very bad lock-on. So when you hit the enemies naturally with Divine Spears, it doesn't really get the ricochet of what you're looking for to bounce from enemy to enemy. And I feel like that's what Blazing Chakram should do on its own, to give you that necessary damage buff to where you don't have to spam your 4, then go into your 2 to actually set it up. So that's a little bit, you know, backpedaling to me, you know. So let's go ahead and talk about the next one. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just, it's okay. It's just overly tedious. That's just my thing about it. It works though, but just very tedious when other frames just press one button, okay? Now, we made our way over to Warding Halo, which is a fantastically great defensive ability, and I build a lot of my playstyle around it. Now, I want to tell you guys one thing. You got to be careful, because when you go over to the wiki and try to read it and get some greater understanding, it's kind of like taking geometry when you've never taken math before in your life. Because when you go to the wiki, you're going to see things like a max steel fiber plus intensify rank 3 plus Warding Halo, which is then going to give you the health of 900 plus 2 times 175 equals a 2.1 into self-destruction, multiply the damage of the child support that you got to be paying plus your baby mama's trust funds, which is then going to backpedal and tell you that the ability is affected by duration. That's what the wiki tells you. It gets weird. It tries to break down everything, when in actuality it gets damage absorptions. It's going to get a multiplier on there, which is then affected by power strength, which is then going to be able to help you out based off your armor. And still, you know, everything else was steel fiber calculated. It just tells you too much. But overall, what I base my playstyle around is going to be Warding Halo's 3 seconds invincibility. That is my main thing. The 3 second invincibility is freaking amazing, and that's how I build my build around it. Now, I play Nezha a little bit differently because I don't use health conversion. I don't use, you know, all of these extra, you know, defensive mods. I don't believe in defensive mods most of the time in really long runs, especially with Nezha. You do not need it at all. Okay, so what's going to happen is that when I activate my third ability, which is Warding Halo, I then try not to take damage within that damage sequence portion of the damage absorption. I try not to take damage within that time frame, because what then happens at really high level content is that, let's say my Warding Halo shows that I can absorb 29,000 to 40,000 worth of damage. That's not the amount of damage you're going to take, people. Trust me. Let's say you have a max vitality on. When you got a max vitality on and you're Warding Halo to the side, the little circle with the big numbers, that's going to say you can take 40,000, 30,000 worth of damage. You will die before that counter hits 0. That is not the damage you can take. That is the damage the Warding Halo can take. And that one was throwing off my gameplay. So what I figured out I would do is, whenever I activate Warding Halo, I move around so the enemies actually don't give me that beefed up amount of damage in high level play, and my survivability was 10 times better. Because what happens is that I'll get my Warding Halo to around a 4,000 or 5,000 area, and as soon as the Warding Halo moves, soon as the Warding Halo runs out from all the damage that it can take, I don't lose any health. And what then tends to happen is that as soon as it goes away, I then activate and redo it again. Because what happens is that, remember, Nezha isn't completely invincible anymore with Warding Halo, and that is one of the biggest problems that the community tends to not like, is that it's 90% damage reduction. So the higher you go up into high level content, that 1% of damage, all of that then becomes too much. So 1% of the enemy, high level enemy shots breaks my warding halo and then give me another invincibility session. So then I activate it right away again, and my survivability was insane. I've done a 3-hour run with Nezha, and once I got past the 2-hour mark, I went another extra hour without dying, period, just using that scenario, that setup. That is my playstyle, and I love it. And I found out after doing a second run with Nezha that going with the max armor build and trying to take damage does not count. When you go to crazy high level damage, you cannot survive. There's no frame in the game that can actually take that amount of damage. Neither does Nidus. The only reason why Nidus gets a pass is because his passive is so god tier, because it gives him that counter for invincibility to where he takes no damage. Then he can just refresh that armor sequence and build himself back up. So no other frame in the game, if he was completely invincible, if Nezha was completely invincible, it would be freaking amazing. But that 90%, you got to remember, the enemy's damage keeps multiplying, and we all know that enemy scaling is not very realistic in Warframe. There's no real counter on it, so the damage becomes a little bit too intense for the Warframe to be able to take. You don't have enough health there to be able to take it, and that's why I do these high level tests, because people will sit there and tell you, oh, Nezha does this and that, and stop, sit down. Let's go to the next part. We made our way over to Divine Spears, which Divine Spears really didn't get changed. It has impale damage and slam damage. The greatest thing that they actually gave this ability is the fact that they took away the obnoxious counter to where, you remember when Nezha had the countdown was there, and Nezha had to stop what he was doing just to do the slam? That was the dumbest thing ever. The fact that they took that away, really dope. Other than that, the ability don't really bring anything to the table. It's a room quick CC, which Nezha doesn't need. Nezha is a very strong melee type of Warframe that doesn't need to CC anything overall. The other thing is that if you want to use it to pick up a friend, you don't really need to, because then you could just go operator mode, which is 10 times safer. The other thing, that Ancients still debuff this move, which is pretty obnoxious at high level play. The only reason I use it is the fact that it gives Blazing Chakram a better lock on. That is his only identity of being a Nezha's ability, is that it helps the second ability gets better lock on, which Blazing Chakram on its own is just an excuse to have terrible lock on to make you use the fourth ability, which I don't agree with, because Blazing Chakram has an ability, well, it has a functionality to where you can charge the ability. And if you charge the ability, what it should do is lock on to enemies like Ash, to where it can mark those enemies to where you can have a greater lock on. That should be the purpose, not the fact that you need a fourth ability which costs 100 and then you have to use another ability just to get a group CC buff, which is pretty obnoxious, and to me it was a weak thing for them to do, when they could have just made it a little bit better and create a different functionality for Divine Spears. Man, sometimes I feel like I should write a book. No, I'm just playing. But listen, Divine Spears overall, it's just it's probably one of Nezha's worst abilities. Just only reason why you need it is for a team, it's for a group buff. The thing for me is that the first ability is great, the fact that its duration, very good. The second ability, Blazing Chakram, I would need them to make the lock-on sequence a lot better, to where you don't need to just depend on Divine Spears. I understand synergy, but I also understand things that are tedious, which is unnecessary as well. Third ability, Warding Halo. I know a lot of people didn't like the fact that it's 90%, and a lot of people didn't understand why it's 90%. The 90% really hurts you at high level play, so you then have to depend on the 3-second invincibility, and a lot of people don't get it. 90% at high level is still meaning death, people, okay? Now, but it's still good, really great. It works the way I need it to work. Then we have the fourth ability, all right? Overall, all in all, Nezha's, get it out, Rio, get it out. Nezha's, say it, I'm proud of you, baby. Get the words out, get the words out. It starts with a G, sound it out. Good. He's good. He's good. Yeah, Nezha's good. He's good now. So now I gotta start roasting Atlas, okay? Listen, people, I hope that you guys like this Walmart Dollar General review. Hot cocoa in a wine glass. Signing out. Much love to you guys. If you guys did enjoy the video, please be sure to give the video a thumbs up. And I know probably a lot of people are like, Rio, where's the build? I don't really show builds in these reviews, but I'll just show it real quick, just so you can stop crying, you know. But much love to you guys. Thank you guys for the support. Share this video. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoy it. Let me know your best part in the video. Much love to you guys, and I'll catch you guys later on the next Warframe video. How you feel sounding out that word? It really hurt my feelings. I didn't really like it too much. Yeah, say it with me. Nezha's good. Shut up. I've been meaning to slap. Shut up.